Wife ended up in the hospital after contracting an STD from her boss. I still cared for her, while quietly planning my own exit. I first saw Lily Hart when she was 6 and I was 7, both of us jam-sticky from birthday cake at a neighbor's barbecue. She shone even then, brown ponytail flapping as she dashed between sprinklers, laughter bright as coins in a fountain. I crushed on her through math class, through braces and prom and every rite of suburban passage. She never knew until the night of senior year when our friend group lit sky lanterns by the river. I confessed, voice trembling. She smiled like it was news she'd waited to hear, and we kissed beneath paper flames floating upward. From there our timeline felt Puritan. University together, shared studio flat with second-hand furniture, graduation photos side by side. At 24 we traded promise rings for plain gold bands in the small church where her parents married. 4 years on, people still called us the childhood sweethearts who made it. I wore the label proudly, like scout badges sewn to a heart-shaped sash. We weren't rich, but we were steady. I managed logistics for a construction supplier. Lily hopped between retail gigs until she landed a marketing role at Birchfield & Company, mid-sized tech firm with a too-modern office of glass and brushed steel. She was thrilled. Salary bump, proper benefits, chance to flex her graphic design minor. I celebrated with takeout sushi and a toast to our next chapter. She laughed, cheeks flushed, and clinked her wine glass to mine. If life were a field, that was the last moment I stood knee-deep in clover, blissfully unaware of thistles ahead. Lily's new boss was Rowan Hale, 38, head of marketing, MBA hung beside photos of charity marathons. Lily talked about him the way students praise a favorite professor. He actually listens. He lets me pitch ideas even though I'm new. He says my campaign copy sings. I smiled. Please somebody recognize the talent. Their workplace events multiplied. Brainstorming dinners at trendy eateries, weekend retreats for brand alignment, late-night Slack threads thick with animated GIFs. I teased Lily, don't let them steal you from our Netflix marathons, and she'd muss my hair, promise early night soon. One evening she brought home a Birchfield gift bag, company hoodie, stainless steel water bottle, and a note signed, Ah in looping black ink. The hoodie smelled faintly of cologne. I shrugged off mild jealousy. They're a tight team. I tucked the hoodie into the laundry basket as if cleansing it of stray aromas. Our marriage still felt warm, dinners cooked together, inside jokes, but small shifts appeared, like cracks in old paint. She guarded her phone more, screen tilting away from my glance. She sprinkled sentences with marketing jargon, quoting Rowan. Rowan says synergy starts with empathy. I rolled my eyes, but not unkindly. The first missed date night I chalked up to workload. The fifth earned a soft argument. No shouting, just wounded sighs. She apologized, bought pastries next morning, kissed my temple. Peace restored, or so I thought. A Tuesday in late April, my phone rang at 2:17 p.m. A number from St. Clement's Hospital. The nurse's tone pressed panic against my ribs. Lily admitted, high fever, possible sepsis. I left invoices scattered on my desk and sped across town. Fluorescent corridors blurred until I reached room 4B. Lily lay pale under tangled hair, for lines snaked from her arm. Machines whirred like cautious insects. Despite tubes and monitors, she looked childlike, breath hitching in shallow loops. I pressed her hand, whispered I was here. She stirred but did not wake. Doctors peppered me with questions. Recent travel? Unusual symptoms? I answered best I could. They suspected a bacterial infection, source unknown. Broad-spectrum antibiotics, blood cultures, observation. I stayed through the night, head resting on mattress edge. At dawn a junior doctor approached, expression grave. We've isolated the infection, he said quietly. It's pelvic inflammatory disease, triggered by chlamydia. Word after word landed like hailstones. STD chlamydia. Married 4 years. High school sweethearts. My mouth opened, closed. There must be a mistake. We've never. He offered a pamphlet on treatment, advised testing for both partners. I read the same line 5 times, comprehension refusing to click. When Lily finally woke, pain-dulled eyes flicked to mine. Relief washed her features, then confusion at my stiffness. Jamie, she croaked. The infection, I whispered. It's from an STD. Her pupils widened, and a tear slipped sideways toward the pillow seam. Silence stretched until monitors seemed to tick. I'm sorry, she rasped, voice shredding. I'm so sorry. We sat alone. Curtains drawn for privacy, the ward's hush broken by distant shoe squeaks. She spoke haltingly, long hours with Rowan evolving into drinks, then into a hotel room after a conference. One lapse turned to several, Guilt knotted with thrill until conscience blurred. She claimed she'd meant to end it, claimed Rowan was persuasive. My mind conjured him. Marathon runner, team builder, a man who quoted empathy while stealing vows. I felt strangely calm, a fridge door left open so long the motor quits. No shouting erupted. I asked practical questions. How long? Did she love him? Were there others? She answered, 3 months. No, only Rowan. Each admission carved grooves in whatever trust remained. I told her I'd get tested, that we'd focus on her recovery first. Tears soaked her bandaged white cheeks. She begged forgiveness through cracked lips. I dabbed them with tissue, mechanical caregiver overriding fractured husband. But inside, levers had already started to turn. Revenge, not explosive, but methodical, began its slow clock tick. Lily slept most of the next 48 hours while 4 drips battled infection. I sat by her side, outwardly devoted, inwardly drafting an exit. I listed assets on my notes app, joint savings, mine greater, the townhouse title, both names, my pension pot, her newer car still under finance. Our mortgage agreement allowed a buyout or sale with 60-day notice. I emailed a solicitor friend, discreetly flagging divorce questions under the guise of hypothetical. During ward rounds, I fetched water, fluffed pillows, played husband of the year. Nurses complimented my dedication. I thanked them, voice steady. Each gesture served a dual purpose: aid Lily's healing and mask my strategic withdrawal. Evenings I drove home to collect mail. The house echoed, her slippers by the door, our wedding photo above the mantel. I boxed sentimental items, slid them into the attic. Documents went into a locked briefcase under the bed. I changed email passwords, switched salary payments to my personal account, froze contributions to the joint savings citing budgeting. I printed deed transfer forms, unsigned, ready. I updated life insurance beneficiaries to my sister Emma. Detail by detail, I built a lifeboat. On the 5th night, Lily's fever broke. Doctors predicted discharge within a week. I smiled, praised their care, then lay awake in the visitor's recliner staring at ceiling tiles, rehearsing the day she'd return to find empty closets and a single envelope. The morning Lily signed her release papers, may sunlight spilled across the ward like someone finally opened the blinds on a long-running nightmare. She sat propped against pillows, freckles standing out stark after a week without makeup. The infection was retreating, but weariness clung to her movements. I packed her overnight bag, phone charger, earplugs, half-read novel. She watched my hands, maybe noticing how little lingered in my touch. Home, she whispered, forcing a smile. It faltered when I didn't mirror it. Home, I echoed, though in my mind the word no longer meant the same 4 walls. The nurse wheeled her to the exit while I fetched the car. The ride was quiet, engine hum filling gaps where conversation should live. Lily traced raindrop ghosts on the window. There hadn't been rain, but habit makes its own weather. When we turned into our street, she frowned. The blinds in the front bay were drawn, but that by itself raised no alarm. Only when I unlocked the door did she notice a difference. The faint echo, the way her footsteps sounded too loud on polished timber. The hallway console table stood empty, no keys, no framed honeymoon photo. The living room still held its sofa, but the corner where my guitar rack used to stand faced bare plaster. Small holes marked where diploma frames once hung. A hush similar to the hospital's, but colder. Jamie, what's happened? Her voice trembled, though she was brave enough not to reach for my arm. I led her to the kitchen. On the oak table sat a neat stack. A buff folder labeled divorce petition, her set of house keys on top, and a handwritten letter. Underneath, another envelope contained a certified check for half-hour accessible savings. I had left her monetary lifelines. Fidelity, however, was beyond repair. Her breath hitched. You pack your things. Only mine, I said. The rest is yours to decide about. Taze brimmed, but she didn't touch the folder. When did you do this? In stages, while you slept. A sob slipped out. I'm still healing, Jamie. I know. And I wasn't unsympathetic. Infection isn't a punishment I wished on her. But forgiveness and residency are separate visas. There's food in the fridge. Emma's number is on the note. She'll come help you in the evenings. Lily stared at the document as if the print might rearrange itself into kinder shapes. Is there any chance? No, the word cut air cleanly. I softened only slightly. Sign when you're ready. Our solicitor will handle filings. You can keep the car. I don't need to. She pressed fingers to her lips, shoulders shaking. I walked to the doorway, paused. I'll stay in a hotel for a week while you organize things. After that, I'll be at Emma's until the sale completes. She managed a nod, tears sliding unchecked. I stepped outside, closing the door with hospital-quiet gentleness, and the click felt like a surgeon tying the final suture. Revenge, I discovered, wears many suits. Mine chose a bureaucrat's blazer. 2 days after the discharge, I composed an anonymous email to Birchfield Compliance Officer and CSA Human Resources, detailing Rowan Hale's relationship with his subordinate, highlighting policy clauses about power imbalance and undisclosed fraternization. No colorful language, just timestamps, hotel receipts Lily's phone still stored, and a discreet mention of the health ramifications now documented at St. Clement's. I clicked send, took a breath, then let the corporate machine throttle its own. Within 72 hours, I heard from a former university mate who worked in Birchfield's finance arm, internal investigation, Rowan suspended, laptop seized for forensic audit. Staff Slack channels buzzed like hornets. Lily, still convalescing at home, received a call instructing her to remain off-site pending inquiry. A week later, the mate texted a single triumphant line. Hale gone. Rowan's exit was swift. Severance withheld. Reputation in tatters. Sub-teams he'd championed were redistributed. Lily, by association, was offered a mutual separation package, 3 months' salary in return for an NDA sealing her lips about the scandal. She signed. What else could she do? When she told me through trembling voicemail, I recognized shocks aftershocks in her tone. I didn't exult outwardly. Vindication is best savored in silence, like good whiskey. I did, however, sleep a full 8 hours for the first time since the hospital call. When dawn eased through Emma's guest room curtains, the world looked newly aligned, if not yet kind. Lily's infection cleared, but antibiotics left her drained. Emma visited with groceries, tidied, texted me updates. Food eaten, feeling better today. I wired fund for a private physiotherapist, booked through a neutral third party so Lily never saw my name. I wanted her healed, not for reconciliation, but because cruelty corrodes both giver and receiver. One afternoon, Emma reported Lily asked why I still cared for her health. I dictated a reply. Tell her compassion doesn't lockstep with partnership, but trust does. Emma paraphrased delicately. Lily wept, apparently. I took my own blood tests. All clear. Relief mingled with melancholy. Proof her infection hadn't crusted me. Proof physical borders still held in a marriage whose emotional barriers had crumbled. Lawyers shuttled drafts. Lily requested to keep the living room furniture. Easy concession. I requested sole ownership of my late grandmother's piano. Another easy division. The hardest part was a town haze. A brewery red brick would fallen for at first viewing. We agreed on market sale. Proceed split. A for sale sign rose, and with it, memories eviction notice. June heat shimmered when removal vans sucked Lily's share of belongings into corrugated bellies. I stood across the road, arms folded. She exited last, clutching a pot-bound fern half wilted from her hospital stay. At the curb, she noticed me. She didn't wave. Neither did I. But we held each other's gaze a respectful moment, veterans of a war no outsiders could catalog. She loaded the fern into her hatchback and drove north, rumored to be staying with an aunt in Scarborough to restart somewhere no one knows. The car turned the corner. I released a breath like a buttoned shirt finally undone. Inside, the house felt skeletonized, dust outlines of picture frames, pale rectangles on painted walls. I spent an hour walking room to room, palms skimming empty air where furniture once sat, not grieving, no scavenging joy, merely verifying vacancy. When the realtor rang 2 days later with an over-asking offer from a young couple, I accepted before the voicemail finished. Signing day arrived in early August. Lily and I met in the solicitor's boardroom, first time face-to-face since discharge day. She looked healthier, weight regained, a faint wave in hair I'd forgotten. We exchanged nods, pen scraped paper, and just like that 4 years of legal togetherness dissolved into witness signatures. Outside, summer clouds drifted like ships departing port. Lily approached me. "Thank you," she said. "Not for the divorce, I think, but for the humane path I'd cut through hell." She extended a small padded envelope. "Your high school class ring. Found it while packing. Figured it matters." It did. I pocketed it. "Take care of yourself, Lily." Her eyes shone, but no tears fell. "You too, Jamie." She toned, heels ticking on pavement, and walked into noon glare until size and shape blurred. Something loosened in my chest then, final not untying. Not forgiveness in total, but acceptance of irreversible geometry. I moved into a modest flat overlooking the canal, 1 bedroom, exposed beams, rent I could manage alone. The first night I drank coffee on the balcony, shirt sleeves rolled, listening to geese argue on black water. No hospitals, no hush-speaking doctors, no corporate S-class predators. Only ripples and distant pub laughter. I filled the space deliberately. Thrift shop desk, second-hand records, succulents that thrived on neglect. I learned to cook for one without portioning enough for two and a half. I jogged. I read novels once shelved for someday. Therapists call it reclaiming narrative. I called it scraping rust. Months passed. Papers finalized. My solicitor mailed a decree absolute. Single sheet, heavy stock, legal language compressing love and loss into 4 paragraphs. I framed it not as trophy but as reminder. Aftermath can be navigated with poise. Birchfield, rumor said, rebranded its marketing wing, instituted mandatory ethics training. Rowan Hale's LinkedIn went dark, then vanished. Someone spotted him bartending at a cousin's gastropub near Brighton. Whether gossip or truth, I felt no surge of triumph, only a small nod that the universe sometimes balances ledgers. And Lily? A Christmas card arrived. No return address, only snowflakes embossed. Inside, Jamie, I'm healthy, studying online for a UX certificate. Therapy helps. Thank you for the kindness you still managed after all I broke. Wishing you peace and new beginnings. I'm sorry. I placed the card in a drawer beside the class ring, closed it softly. On a cool April evening a year later, I hosted friend for takeaway curry. Laughter bounced under rafters. Someone's playlist drifted from the speaker. Between songs a comfortable lull settled, and I stepped onto the balcony with fresh plates. Canal water rippled under street lamps. My reflection overlaid on the glass door surprised me. Shoulders relaxed, eyes absent of that stark ward-like glare. Not a man untouched, but a man serviceably patched. I remembered how Lily once said thermostats measure more than temperature. They measure presence. She wasn't wrong. The flat's warmth now came from conversations, from the hiss of jasmine rice steaming. Warmth I could trust because I'd laid the wiring myself. I raised a forkful of chicken bounty to the night air, a small unsent toast of resilience, to boundaries, to endings that see gentle starts, and then rejoined the living room, where friends waited, stories ready to kindle. What did you think of this story? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments, and thanks for listening.